Bharata and his party took a dip into the Triveni, the confluences of the Ganga, Yamuna, and Saraswati, the chief of the sacred places, and bowed their head to the Sikh Bharatwaja. Bharata reverently received his orders and blessings, and protesting himself made supplications. Supplication means the action of asking or begging for someone or honestly or humbly. Asking for someone or something honestly or humbly is called the supplication, accompanied by the expert guides and taking the whole host along with him. He proceeded urgently with his thought directed towards Chitrakuta. Holding Sri Rama's friend Goha by the hand, he walked along like the very incarnation of love. He had no shoes and no umbrella over his head, and his love, self-discipline, austerity, and piety were unfazed. Unfazed means, what do you mean by the unfazed? Unfazed means a broad smile or a genius sincere is called the unfazed. Unfazed means
unfeigned,
unfazed, yeah, and genuine and
unfeigned.
sincere, and genuine and sincere, and genuine and sincere, unfazed. And he asked his friend Goha, he asked his friend unfazed, and he asked his friend Goha by the name he walked, and he asked his friend Bharata reverently with the order of blessing the protesting himself made much supplication accompanied by his expert guides and Bharata and he asked his friend Goha to give an account of the wandering of Lakshmana, Sri Rama, an account of the wandering of the Lakshmana, Sri Rama, and Sita. Account of the wandering, account, description of something or someone or something is called the account. The account. Account means a detailed account of what has been achieved. A detailed account, a report or discipline. A report is called the discipline event or experience. A report or description of event or experience is called account. A report or description of event or experience is called the account. A report or description of event or experience is called the account. A description of event or experience is called the account. A description of event or experience is called the account. A description of event and experience is called the account. A description of event and experience is called the account. A description of event or experience is called the account. Account of the wandering of the Lakshmana, Sri Rama, and Sita, while Guha narrated the same in soft accent. When he saw the spots where Sri Rama had rested and the trees under which he had halted, the emotion within his breast could not be repressed. The gods who beheld his conditions rained down flowers, the earth grew soft and the road became pleasant. The clouds afforded him shades all along with a delightful and the excellent breeze kept blowing. The journey was not so agreeable to Sri Rama as it proved to be for Bharata. The numberless beings, both animate and inanimate, that saw the Lord or were seen by the Lord in their turn, had been rendered fit for the highest estate. The sight of the Bharata now finally rid them of the disease of the transmigration. This was no great thing for Bharata, whom Sri Rama ever cherished in his heart. Even they who utter the name of Rama only once in this world not only reach the other shore themselves but are also able to take other across. As for Bharata, he is dearly loved by the Sri Rama and his younger brother too. No wonder then that the journey should be delightful to him. Siddhas, a class of the celestial being, Siddhas. Siddhas means a class of the celestial being. Celestial means, what do you mean by the celestial? Celestial means positions in or relating in the sky, outer space, or observed in an astronomy is called the celestial being. Celestial being, a class of Siddhas, is the class of the celestial being. Saints and the great sakes. Sakes, the saint and the great sage. Sage means an aromatic, either two very intelligent person is called the sage. Observed thus and rejoiced at heart to behold Bharata, Indra, the chief of the god, was filled with anxiety was filled with anxiety, the mind and body, reflection of stressful, dangerous, or unfamiliar situation. The stressful, dangerous, or unfamiliar situation is called the anxiety. Stressful, dangerous, or unfamiliar situation is called the anxiety. Stressful, danger, unfamiliar situation is called the anxiety. Stressful, danger, unfamiliar situation is called the anxiety. He was filled with anxiety when he saw Bharta's power. The world is good to the good, and while for the while he said to his preceptor, the sage Brahaspati, something must be done, my lord, to prevent the meeting between Rama and Bharta. Sri Rama is scrupulous by nature. Scrupulous means careful, thorough, and extremely attentive to detail is called the scrupulous. Careful, thorough, and extremely attentive to detail is called the very concerned to avoid doing wrong is called the scrupulous. Very concerned to avoid doing wrong is called the scrupulous. Very careful, very concerned to avoid being wrong is called the scrupulous. Careful, thorough, and extremely attentive to detail. Careful, thorough, and extremely attentive to detail is called the scrupulous. Scrupulous by nature, very attentive to a detail, very careful and extremely attentive for the detail, 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 extremely attentive for the detail is called scrupulous. Scrupulous is called the extremely attentive for the detail is called the scrupulous. Extremely attentive for the detail by the nature is one by the love and 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 one by the love. Love means and won by the love. While Bharta is an ocean of affection, and the Bharta is an ocean of what has already been accomplished, thus threatened to be undone. Therefore, finding out some stratagem, let us use is as a remedial measures. Hearing his words, the perceptor of the god smiled and realized that though endowed with the thousand eyes, Indra was really blind, lacked discriminate. He said, if anyone practices deceptions on a devotee of Sri Rama, the Lord of Maya, it requires on the artificer himself. O king of the god, last time we did something knowing that it had Sri Rama's tacit approval, but by resorting to some underhand means, this time we are sure to meet with disaster. Listen, O Lord of the God, it is Sri Rama's nature not to be angry at any offense against himself, but he who sins against his devotee is surely consumed in the fire of his wrath. The story is well known both in this world as well as in the Vedas. The sage Durvasa knows his glorious trait of Sri Rama's character. Who is there who loves Rama as Bharta's loves? One repeats Rama's name where Rama repeats name of Bharta. Never harbor in your mind, O Lord of the immortals, even the thought of frustrating the purpose of devotee of Sri Rama, chief of Raghuline, for the same will bring you infamy in this world, sorrow in the next, and series of woes in your day-to-day life. Hear our advice, O King of the gods. A devotee is supremely dear to Sri Rama. He is gratified through service rendered to his devotee and bears great enmity to those who are hostile to them. Even though the Lord is alike to all without either love or anger and receives neither sins nor virtue, neither merit nor demerit, and even though he has made fate the ruling factor in this world so that one reaps what one sows, yet accompanied as one possesses the heart of the devotee or an unbeliever, he appears to be impartial or hostile in his dealing. Though devoid of attributes, unattached, free from pride, and even unchanged, Sri Rama has assumed a form with attributes yielding to the to love of his devotee. Sri Rama has ever respected the wishes of his devotee. The Vedas and Purana, as well as saints and God, can bear testimony to this. Bearing this mind, give up perversity and cherish idle love for the Bharta's feet. Bharta's feet. Perversity. Perversity means what do you mean by perversity? Perversity means the deliberate desire to behave in an unreasonable or unacceptable way. They responded with typical perversity, the deliberate desire to behave in unacceptable, constant perverseness, unreasonableness, difficultness, and cherish idle love for the Bhartas. Sri Rama's devotee is actively engaged, doing good to others, share the sorrow of others, and are compassionate by nature. And Bharta is the very creased jewel of the devotee. Therefore, be not afraid of him, O ruler of gods. The Lord is true to his word and the friend of the gods while Bharata obeys Sri Rama's orders. You are feeling uneasy only because you are dominated by self-interest. Bharata is not to blame at all. It is your ignorance which is responsible for your uneasiness. O chief of the gods, Indra was overjoyed at heart to hear these valuable words of the heavenly preceptor, and his depression of spirit was gone. The Lord of Celestial therefore rained down flowers and gladly began to extol Bharta's noble disposition. In this way, Bharta went on his way, while Sheikhs and the Siddhas were filled with envy at the sight of his condition. Whenever he heaved a long sigh, with the word Rama on his lips, it seemed as if love overflowed on all sides. Even adamants and the stones melted at his words. The love of the citizens was beyond description. Halting at one place on the sides, the party arrived on the bank of the Yamuna, and Bharta's eyes were filled with tears as he gazed on its dark water, which reminded him of Sri Rama's Swarthi form. At the sight of the lovely stream that possessed the same hue as the person of the Sri Rama, the chief of Raghunath, Bharata and his party were plunged into an ocean of grief on account of separation from Sri Rama and were saved from drowning only by boarding the bark of discretion. That day they halted on the bank of the Yamuna. Everyone was provided with comforts according to the occasions. In course of the night, innumerable boats of untold varieties came from all the ghats. At daybreak, the whole party crossed the river in a single trip. Everyone was pleased with the services rendered by the Nishada chief in this behalf. After performing their ablutions and going their head to the river Yamuna, the two brothers Bharata and Shatrugna resumed their journey with the Lord of Nishada at the head of the line in chosen vehicles travels the principal Sikhs, Vamadeva, Vashishta, and so on, followed by the royal host. Next followed the two royal brothers, both on foot. Their ornaments, costumes, and style of dress were all of the very simplest. They were accompanied by their servants, friends, and the ministers' son, and went with their thought fixed on the Lakshmana, Sita, and the Lord of Raghu. They lovingly saluted each and every place where Sri Rama had either encamped or rested a while. Hearing the news, the man and the woman who lived by the roadside left their household work and ran after the royal travelers, and having seen their comely form and affection, they all rejoiced on attaining the reward of their life. One woman lovingly said to another, "Friends, can they be Rama and Lakshmana or not? Their age, constitutions, complexion, and comeliness of the form are the same, dear companion. Their amiability and the affection are also similar, and their gait too resembles that the Rama and the Lakshmana. Only their dress is not the same, and they are not accompanied by Sita, my friend, and an enemy army completed its four limbs, that is, horses, foot, elephants, and carrots, in marching before them. Moreover, they do not wear a cheerful countenance, and their heart is heavy with sorrow. This difference makes me doubt their identity with Rama and Lakshmana, our friend. Her argument appealed to the rest of the women. They said, "There is none so clever as she," applauding the latter and admiring the truth of her remark. Another woman spoke in sweet accents. She lovingly narrated the whole episode as to how the festivities in connection with Sri Rama's installation had been obscured. She then began to she then began to praise Bharta's amiability, affection, genial disposition, and good luck. Journeying on the food, living on fruits, and relinquishing the sovereignty bestowed by his father, Bharata is proceeding to pursue the chief of the Raghu line to return. Who can equal Bharata today? Bharta's brutality, affection, devotion, and conduct displays the woes and evil of those who talk or hear of them. Whatever may be said with regard to them, dear friend, will be quite inadequate. It is no wonder that a brother of the Rama should be like that. All of us who have seen Bharta and his younger brother have become praiseworthy among women. Hearing of his virtues and seeing his forlorn state, they lamented, "Surely he is not a fit son of such a vile mother as Kaikai," someone said. "The queen mother is not to blame at all. All this has been accomplished by God, who is so favorably disposed to us. Of what account are we, while women, excluded both from secular and Vedic rites, and impure by birth as well as by doing, who dwell in an aqueous regions, woodland, and is in a wretched village, and are the worst of our class, that we should have such a sight? which is a regard of the great religious merit. There was a similar there was a similar rejoicing and wonder in every village. It seemed that the celestial trees has sprung up in a desert. At the site of the Bharata, the celestial tree has been sprung in a desert. The celestial tree has been sprung in a desert. At the site of the Bharata, the god, good fortune of the people by the roadside man feasted itself as though by the will of the providence. Prayaga had been brought within easy reach of the people of Shimla. Hearing his own praises as well as Sri Rama's virtues, Bharata went on his ways thinking of the Sri Rama. Whenever he happened to see holy water, he bathed in them, and whenever he caught sight of the hermitage or a temple, he made obeisance to it, asking in his heart only one boon, that is devotion to the lotus feet of the Sita and Rama. Whoever he met, be he a Kola or any other forester, or even he were an anchorite, a religious student, a recluse or the hermit, he would salute him and inquire in which part of the forest were Lakshmana, Rama, and Swideha's daughter Sita. They told him all the news of the Lord, and at the sight of Bhartas obtained the reward of their life. Those persons who said they had seen the Lord doing well were counted as dear as Sri Rama and Lakshmana themselves. Thus, in polite phrase, he would make inquiries from all and hear the story of the Sri Rama's forest life. Halting that day in a suitable place, he resumes his journey early next morning, invoking the Lord of the Raghu. Just like Bharta, everyone who accompanied him lodged for the sight of Sri Rama. Auspicious omens occurs to everyone. They had happy trembling in their eyes and arms. Bharta and his whole party rejoiced at the thought that they would be able to auspicious omens occurs to everyone. They had happy trembling in their eyes and arms. Bharta and his whole host rejoiced at the thought that they would be able to see Sri Rama and the sting of their sorrow would come to an end. Each indulged in his own fancy and all went intoxicated with the wine of love. Their limbs were getting out of the control, their legs tottered and they spoke in incoherent way due to emotions. Sri Rama's friend Guha presently pointed to the Bharta, the trees jewel of the mountain Kamadgiri, where was naturally charming and in vicinity which one of the bank of the river Payasni dwelled the two brothers Sri Rama and the Lakshmana, along with Sita. Catching sight of the mountain, all fell protest on the ground with the cries of glory to the Sri Rama, the life of the Janka's daughters. And the royal host was so overwhelmed with the emotion as though the chief of the Raghu line had turned back towards Ayodhya. Now, Bharta's love at that time was more than the Shesha, the thousand-headed serpent, could describe. It is an unapproachable to the poet as the bliss of the absorption into the Brahma to those who are tainted by egoism and the mindness. Being all overpowered by love for the chief of the Raghu line, they had covered a distance of only 4 miles by the time the sun set. Perceiving a suitable site and waters close by, they halted, and at the close of the night, the beloved of the Sri Rama resumed his journey. There Sri Rama awoke while it was yet dark. Sita saw in a dream that very night as the Shri, if Bharta had come with the retinue and that his brother was tormented by the agony and affliction, while her mother-in-law she found changed in appearance. On hearing of Sita's dream, Sri Rama's eyes filled with tears, and he would rid others of their sorrow, become sorrowful. The dream Lakshmana bought not goods, boards. Lakshmana boards means what do boards means a potent and particular outcome. Be a potent argument is not board. Board means anger, foretell, prostrate. Board's not good. Lakshmana's board's not good. Somebody will break terrible bad news, saying so he took his bath with his brothers and worshipping the enemy of the Tripura Lord Shiva paid his respect to holy men. Sri Ramayana. After adoring the gods and reverencing the hermit, he sat down gazing to the north. There was dust in the air, and a host of birds and the beast has taken to flight in panic and were making their ways to the Lord's hermitage. Says Tulasidas, he stood up when he saw this and wondered in his heart what could be the reason. Presently, the Kolas and the Kirtas came and told him all the news. News. What do you mean by the news? News means the newly received information is called the news. Newly received information. Newly received information is called the news. News means newly received information is called the news. Newly received noteworthy information is called the news. Newly received or noteworthy information, especially about recent event, is called news. Newly received noteworthy information, especially about recent event, is called news. Newly received noteworthy information, especially about recent event, is called the news. Newly received noteworthy information, especially about recent event, is called the news. When he heard the delightful words, he felt overjoyed at heart. A thrill ran through his body, and his eyes that resembles the eternal lotus. Says Tulasidas filled with the tears of affection. Sita's lord became anxious the very next moment. What can be the reason of the Bharta's arrival? Then somebody came and spoke to him thus. He had with him no small army, complete of its four limbs, that is, foot, horse, elephant, and the carrot. Hearing this, Sri Rama felt much disturbed. On the one hand, there was his father's commands, on the other, his regard of his younger brother Bharta. Realizing Bharta's disposition in his heart, the Lord found no proposition to fix his mind upon. Then he consoled himself with the thought that Bharta was submissive, good, and reasonable. Lakshmana saw that the Lord was troubled at heart and spoke what prudence demanded on the occasion. I make bold, my Lord, to say something unasked, but a servant ceased to be impertinent if his impertinence is not impertinent. Impertinent means impertinent, impertinent,
impertinence,
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 rudeness, insolence,
impertinence, impertinence,
impertinence, rudeness,
impertinence,
importunate, and importunate means
inopportune,
inopportune means uh, mistimed, occurring at an inconvenient and inappropriate time, occurring in an inappropriate time, inappropriate. Impatience is not Ramayana. But a servant ceases to be impotent if his impotency is not inopportunate. Inopportune. You, my master, are the chief jewel of the all wise. Yet I wise. Wise means what do you mean by the wise? Wise means wise. This following
wise,
adjective, adverb, and manner of respect. Such talk wise. Compare with wise. Wise means having or
wise,
showing experience, knowledge, and good judgment. Having or 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 showing experience, knowledge, and good judgment. Yet I, your servant, tell you my own mind, and yet I, your servant, tell you my own mind. You, my master, are loving by nature and glueless of heart, and a storehouse of the amiability and affection. You love and trust everyone, and know all to be just like yourself, whose gift to the pleasure of the sense are seized with infatuation on attaining power and reveal their true nature. Bharta was righteous, good, and wise, and his devotion to the Lord's feet is known to the whole world. But now that he has attained Sri Rama's your position as a ruler of Ayodhya, even he has transgressed the bound of rightness. Finding an adverse situation and knowing that you are alone in the forest, this Willie and the big brother has plotted an evil design, and after making due preparations has come to make his sovereignty secure. Planning all sorts of the wicked schemes, the two brothers have collected an army and marched here if they had no Willie intention and roguery in at that heart. Roguery means what do you mean by the roguery? Roguery means
roguery,
conduct characteristic of rough, especially act dishonesty and playful mischief, dishonesty or playful mischief, dishonesty or playful mischiefs. Druggery at heart. Who should like to bring carrots, horses, and elephants? But why should one blame Bharta for nothing when we know that anyone in this world would be driven made on attaining sovereignty. The moon god committed adultery with the wife of his guru, the sage Brahaspati. With Nosha mounted a palki borne by the Brahmas, and there was none so vile as King Vena, an enemy of the established usage as well as Vedic injunctions. King Shastrabahu, Indra, the lord of the celestial, and King Trishanku, father of the Harishchandra, which of these was not brought into the disrepute by the intoxication of the kingly power? Bharta has resorted to a right expedient, for one should leave no trace of one's enemy or debt in any case. But he had made one mistake in that he has despised Sri Rama Yosef as forlorn, and he will realize his mistake with vigilance today when he beholds Sri Rama, your indigency's face on the battlefield. Even as he said so, the forget this his love of the property, and the tree of his bellicose spirit burst into flowers in the shape of the horripilation Sri Rama. Horripilation means horripilations means erection of hair, horripilation, adorning to the Lord's feet and placing their dust on his head, he spoke, revealing his own real and the natural might. Pray do not take offense, my Lord, if I tell you that the Bharata has provoked me not a little. After all, how long shall I endure this and rest in my patience when my Lord yourself is with me and the bow in my hand? A Kshatriya warrior by caste and born in the race of the Raghu, I am known throughout the world as a servant of the Sri Rama yourself. How then can I put up with such insult? What is so low as the dust on the road? But if you were to kick it up, it would rise to your head. As he rose and with joined palm asked leaves to meet Bharta in an encounter, it seemed as if the heroic sentiment itself has awoke from sleep, binding up the matted locks on his head and fastening the quiver to his waist. He He strung his bows and took on an arrow in his hands. Let me distinguish myself as a servant of Sri Rama today and teach Bharata a lesson in a battle. Battle. What do you mean by the battle? Lesson in a battle. Battle means conflict, fight, conflict, armed conflict, armed conflict is called the battle. Armed conflict is called the battle. Reaping the fruit of their contempt of the Sri Rama. Let the two brothers sleep on the couch of the battlefield. It is well that the whole host has collected at one place. I shall therefore give vent to my past anger, even as lion the king of the beast tears to pieces the herd of the elephants, or just a hawk clutches and carries off a lark. So shall I lightly overthrow on the field Bharata as well as his younger brother Shatrughna and all their hosts, even if Lord Shankara come to his aid. I swear by Sri Rama that I will kill him in battle. Sri Rama. Seeing Lakshmana speak with such vehemency. Vehemency means what do you mean by the vehemency? Vehemency means
Vehemence.
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 Vehemence means passion, forcefulness, vehemency, and fury. And hearing his solemn oath, all the spheres trembled with fears, while their rulers were anxious to flee away in panic. The world was seized with terror, and the voice was heard in the air extolling the enormous strength of Lakshmana's arm. Who can tell, dear child, nay, who even knows your might and glory? But before doing anything, one must judge whether it is right or wrong. Then everyone would approve of it. They who act impulsively and repent afterwards are anything but wise. So declare the Vedas and the sages. On hearing this voice from heaven, Lakshmana felt abashed, but both Sri Rama and Sita greeted him and said, what you have said, dear Lakshmana, is sound wisdom. The intoxication of the kingly power is the worst of all, but of those rulers who have tasted it, they alone lost their head, who have never waited on the assembly of saints. As for Bharata, I tell you, Lakshmana, in the whole of the God creation, I have never seen or heard of anyone so good as he. Bharata would never be intoxicated with sovereign power, even if he had attained to the position of the Brahma, Vishnu, or Shiva. What can a few drops of Kaji even split the ocean of milk? Darkness may swallow the midday sun, and sooner may the heaven be absorbed into the cloud, or the jar-born sage Agastya, who is stated to have drunk of the ocean in the single draught, be drowned in the water collected in the cow's footprint. Nay, the earth may abandon its natural forbearance, and Mount Meru be blown away by the puff of the wind discharged from the mouth of the mosquito, but Bharata will never be intoxicated by the kingly power, O brother. Lakshmana, I swear by you as well as by our father that there is no brother so good as innocent as Bharata. God, dear brother, creates the world by mixing the milk of the goodness with the water of the evil, while Bharata is a swan born in the lake of the solar rays that has sifted goodness from the evil. Choosing the milk of the goodness and discarding the water of evil, he has illuminated the world by his glory. Even as the Lord of Raghu extolled Bharta's virtue, amiability, and the noble disposition, he was drowned in the ocean of love. On hearing the speech of Sri Rama, the chief of the Raghula, and seeing his affection for Bharta, all the gods were full of applause and said, "Who as is such a gracious Lord as Sri Rama? Had Bharata not been born into the world, who on this earth would have championed the cause of virtue in its entirety? Who as then you, O Lord of the Rahu, can know Bharata's good qualities, which are unapproachable even to the race of bards?" On hearing the words of gods, Lakshmana, Sri Rama, and Sita were more delighted than words can tell. There Bharata with all his host bathed in the sacred Mandakini, then leaving all the people on the river sides and taking permission of his mother preceptor, the sage Vashishta and the minister Sumantra, he proceeded to the spot where Sita and Sri Rama were, taking the Nishada chief and his younger brother Sumantra with him. As he thought of what his mother had done, he felt diffidence and formed ill conjectures of every kind in his mind. God forbid that Sri Rama, Lakshmana, and Sita leave the place on hearing my name and shift to some other place, taking me to be the accomplices of my mother. Nothing that he might do would be too much. But looking to his own self, I am sure he will forgive my faults and receive me kindly. Whether he shone me as one possessing a black heart of welcome me as his own servant, my only refugee are Sri Ramashu. He is really a noble master, while the whole blame lies with his servant myself. The only being deserving of fame is the word are the chatka birds and the fish who are clever in keeping ever fresh their vow of fidelity and love. Revolving these thoughts in his mind, he went on his journey, his whole body rendered powerless by defidencies and affection. The sinful act of his mother, Kaki, dragged him back, as it were, while the strength of his devotion pressed him towards. The sinful act of the mother Kaki dragged him back. The sinful act of his mother Kaki dragged him back, as it were, while the strength of his devotion pressed him forward, pressed him forward. The strength of his devotion pressed him forward. The sinful act of his mother Kake dragged him back, as it were, while the strength of his devotion pressed him forward. Foremost among the resolute as he was, resolute means what do you mean by the resolute? Resolute means resolute, uh, purposeful, determined, and unwavering. Purposeful,
Resolute.
determined, and unwavering. Purposeful, determined, and unwavering. Purposeful, determined, and unwavering. Purposeful, determined, and unwavering. Purposeful, determined, and unwavering. Resolute as he was, whenever he thought of Sri Rama's good nature, his feet moved quickly along the way. Bharta's gate, good nature, his feet moved quickly along the way. Bharta's Rama's good nature, his feet moved quickly along the way. At the time, Bharta's gate at the time resembles the movement of the waterfly carries along a stream. Seeing Bharta's anxiety and affection at the moment, when the Shalashi forget all about himself, Auspicious omens occurs, and the Nishada chief, after hearing of and reflecting on them, said, "Anxiety will pass away, giving place to the delight, but in the end there will be sorrow." Bharata knew every word of his servant Guha to be true, word to be true, word to be, every word of the Guha is to be true. True means, what do you mean by the true? True means synonyms of true. True means, and true. Every word of the Guha is true. True means, what do you mean by the true? True means true.
True.
A, in accordance with fact or reality, in accordance, accurate and exact, loyal and faithful, in according to fact or reality, according to fact and reality is called the truth. Every word according, and proceeding further, he drew near to the hermitage. When he saw the forest and the mountain range, he was glad as a hungry man on getting excellent food. Just as the people tormented by the fear of calamities and afflicted by the threefold troubled as well as by the influence of the evil stars and by pestilence feels happy on migrating to a well-governed and prosperous country. Bharata too had similar feeling. The natural wealth of the forest grew while Sri Rama lived there, even as the people rejoiced on securing a good king. The charming forest was the Sakar's realm referred to here. Realm means, what do you mean by the realm? Realm means a kingdom, a kingdom.
Realm.
Realm. Realm
Realm.
means kingdom. Realm means kingdom.
Realm.
Realm. Refer to this. Realm. Refer to this. Discretion was the king who ruled over it. Discretion. What do you mean by the discretion? Discretion. Discretion means
Discretion.
the quality of behaving or speaking in such a way to avoid causing offense or revealing confidential information. Discretion. And discretion was the king. Discretion who ruled over it. Why discretion was his counselor. Counselor. Discretion was the king. Discretion. Discretion means discretion. Discretion was the king. Discretion was the king who ruled over it, and Dispassion was his counselor. Counselor. Dispassion. Dispassion means Dispassion was his counselor. Dispassion was his counselor. Without feeling, if we take decision, that is called the counseling. Dispassion was his counselor. Dispassion means lack of a strong emotion or personal feeling. Lack of a strong emotion or personal feeling. Lack of a strong emotion or personal feeling. Lack of a strong emotion in the personal feeling. This patient was the counselor. Counselor means, what do you mean by the counselor? Counselor means a person trained to give guidance or personal psychological problem. We give trained to personal or psychological problem. Guidance in counselor. Personal or psychological problem, counselor. Likewise, the five yamas and the five niyamas constitute the champions of the realm. Five niyamas constitutes the champion of the realms. Mount Chitrakuta stood for its capital, where peace and good understanding represent the virtuous and the lovely queens. Mount Chitrakuta stood on its capital, while peace and the good understanding represent the virtuous and lovely queen. In this way, the good king was complete in all limbs of the good estates, and depending as he did on Sri Rama's feet, his heart was full of zeal. Having conquered King Delusion with all his host, King Discretion had this undisputed sway in his capital, and joy, prosperity, and plenty resides everywhere. The numerous hermit habitations in the forest regions were like so many towns, cities, villages, and the hamlets comprising the king's dominion. The many birds of the various colors and the beasts of the different varieties constitutes his countless subjects. The hares, elephants, lions, tigers, boars, buffaloes, and bulls presented a sight which attracted admiration. Shading their national animosity, they roamed about together like an army completed on four limbs. Rills of the water flowed and the maid elephant trampled. Rills of the water flowed. Rills of the water flowed and the elephant. Rills means rills means A small stream.
Rill.
Its rills of the water is flowed and made elephant trampled. Their noise resembles the beating of the cattle drum of the various kinds. Chakrakas, chakoras, chitkas, parrots, and the cuckoos and so on made delightful and the merry concert. Merry concert. Concert means what? A musical performance given by the public. A musical performance given by the public. A musical concert. Musical performance given by the public. Song of the bees hummed and peacock danced, which shows it were there was a universe rejoicing in the prosperous kingdom. Creepers, trees, and blades of the grass alike were blossoming and bore fruit. Uh, the entire community thus wore a festive and a delightful appearance. The five nimas of the religious observance fast, sucha, action and internal purity, santosha, contentment, tapas, religious austerity, swadhyaya, study and recitation of the Vedas and muttering of the chanting of the divine name Ishvara, Paritha, self-surrender to meditation to God. Every good state must have following seven limbs: a sovereign, a minister, allies, a treasury, a principality or dominion, a fortress, and an army. Fortress means, what do you mean by the fortress? Fortress means a military stronghold and strongly fortified town. Fortress and an army. Beholding the beauty of Sri Rama's hill, Chitrakuta, Bharata's heart flowed with love, even as ascetic who has reaped the fruit of his penance, rejoicing on the completion of his woe. Pause 20 for the 30 days recitation. Pause for 5 for the 9 days recitation. Shri Ramaya Namah, 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 Shri Ramaya Namah. Shri Ramaya Namah, 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 Shri Ramaya Namah. Shri Ramaya Namah, 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 Shri Ramaya Namah. Shri Ramaya Namah, 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 Shri Ramaya Namah. Shri Ramayana, Shri Ramayana, Shri Ramayana, Shri Ramayana, Shri Ramayana, Shri Ramayana, Shri Ramayana.